Yo, 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 what's up, what's up, what's up? Give up the rock. And hello to all my fellow revolutionaries. You know who you are. And I'd just like to say happy Monday coming from Australia. And I hope that you all had a lovely weekend, an Easter weekend. So, for those of you who are joining us from Australia, or a country like it that has had working class struggles, significant working class struggles, I'm assuming, that have allowed the working class to be able to get access to public holidays. Happy public holiday to you. And if you're coming to us from countries that haven't gotten public holidays on the Easter weekend, then I empathize. I sympathize. Actually, I feel sorry for you, and it is unfortunate that you didn't get penalty rates or to escape the clutches of capital this time around. But we are working as hard as we can here to escape the clutches. Yo, yo, yo! It's Honey32 in the house. My birthday, April 2022. Oh, 22. Oh, coming up. A premature happy birthday to you. And thank you for joining me for a Sunday night stream for you and a Monday morning stream for me. Now, I have, like I did last time we were on YouTube, changed the latency on this. So we are down, we are like delayed, but you should be able to use the closed captions in the bottom of your screen if you want some subtitle assistance to be able to understand what it is I'm going on about today. So, anyway, we will be continuing our investigation, our viewing of the Facebook whistleblower hearing that we started doing last Friday for me, so maybe last Thursday for you. And it's just part of a broader investigation into this idea of techno feudalism and surveillance capitalism that we've been looking at for a while now. I want to say we've been doing this for close to a month now. If this isn't the fourth week into it, maybe it's actually a little bit longer than that. But yeah, we are investigating kind of the new section of the bourgeoisie, so the ruling class, the section of the capitalist system that kind of, controls the world economy to a large part. And this is the tech bros, if you've ever heard them referred to in that way before. The tech bros, as Yanis Varoufakis would call them, techno-feudalists or cloud capitalists. Shoshana Zuboff would call them surveillance capitalists. And we are investigating their world, right? We've been looking at kind of how we may be living in a techno-feudal landscape, where you have digital realms that are owned by private entities, and to exist in the virtual world, to exist in virtual reality, you need to go into the private domains of tech companies and tech bros, and they control everything absolutely within that realm. And it's a form of feudalism in the sense that the amount of control they have over their digital domains is complete. And also the way that they relate to the real world economy is one based on not profit seeking anymore, but complete capture and deriving rents from that. And deriving rents is if you want to use their digital infrastructure, because the global economy is digital and you are required to trade on the digital platform or the digital realm somehow, you must pay fealty to them in the form of subscription or a toll to use their digital highways and their digital spaces. And that's why they're techno-feudalists. And, Shoshana Zuboff, she takes a step back from that. She believes it's still a form of capitalism, and so she calls it surveillance capitalism because, by derivation, the Internet of Things, the technology that we use, the digital architecture, the digital highways, and the digital realms that we exist in the digital space, are surveillance technologies primarily. It's not communication software first, which is like really mind-boggling because everything we have ever been told about the information age and, the digital world that we are, becoming more and more tied to was, it's going to change the world. It's going to democratize everything and information and make the world a more accessible place for everyone. Like by default, we'll all be cosmopolitan because we'll all be living as citizens of a global community with just, the click of a button away from somebody else that might live on the other side of the world. And like it's been sold to us as this communications kind of urban legend, let's call it. And that was going to revolutionize life on Earth. However, this technology was really designed and primarily is there to surveil us. It collects data on people and it allows private organizations or whoever controls the infrastructure and the deep state, so governmental organizations, to basically surveil everyone, to know what people are up to, collect data on them, to watch them, to predict their habits, and more than that, to then modify their behavior. And so that is her kind of take on surveillance capitalism. And so, like, as part of that investigation into those two things, we've been looking at who are the tech bros, what was the history of the internet, what has been the history of Silicon Valley, where they have the tech bros and the techno-feudalists, our cloud capitalists, and those, our overlords, have kind of, established themselves in this realm of giants. And like we've kind of figured out how Silicon Valley arose and like perpetuated this world of techno-feudalism. And now we're just branching off and looking at like, what does this mean in the real world? Like, let's put away all the theoretical stuff and like the geopolitical analyzing and all that type of stuff. And like, what does it look like in the real world when you have techno-feudalists? And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Let me take you over to the scene and set the scene for you today on this interesting interlude into our investigations. And like, here we are sitting in a Senate hearing. We have a committee before us. The committee is called the Senate Judiciary Committee, and it is put together by a number of US senators. I'm assuming they're people with interest in this topic. And they are hearing the testimony of this Facebook whistleblower. Her name is Sarah Wynn-Williams, and she was an executive at Facebook, and she was there up until 2017, I believe. She was there for like 7 years. It looks like MysterE's streams. Censorship and ads. What, the world of the techno-feudalists? You're surveilling me, and we're all getting censored, and it's all in the name of pushing more and more ads onto us. So, yes, I am another cog in that machine. Jag, hello to you, and I hope you've had a good weekend. I hear that the Americans don't get public holidays around this time of year, so my condolences. I do feel sympathy for people that haven't enjoyed public holidays around this time of year because, working people have fought hard for them. So, I hope you've enjoyed your weekend anyway. And I hope you enjoyed 420 because I know that was going off in the chat last time. We were speaking about the ramifications of Easter falling on 420 and like what people may be up to So I hope you enjoyed whatever it was you were up to. And yeah, so we are looking at what happens in reality now when you have a tech bro unleashed upon the world through a mega corporation that is Meta, and that is the name of the company, by the way. That's Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, the three biggest components that are conglomerated under the parent company being called Meta. And what happens when you put a tech bro behind a huge social media empire, and like what do they get up to behind the scenes? And so like this hearing is giving us a little bit of a window into what the hell goes on and what is the mentality of a techno feudalist, whether they're a proto techno feudalist or not, and like they are just coming up and rising to feudal power. I guess history will be able to confirm that for us, and like we will only be able to know that truly in retrospect. But like this is how their world works, and like it's not very different to some of the more vulture style and predatory capitalist behaviors that we're used to and we talk about. Yes, it's not so different to that, but the means of production that they're working with, the stuff that they have access to, is very absolute. Like they just really control things in like beyond a traditional monopolistic fashion. They're not just controlling a whole part of the economy and relying on controlling labor and controlling the government to get regulations in their interests and stuff like that. Like they control a whole virtual world of their own. And like this is the type of stuff that happens when they control worlds of their own, not just parts of the economy. I think these are two massively different things. They really, in through their digital architecture, are creating new worlds that we exist on. Like many people, I would say most people today, they have a smartphone, and like we really do exist in two worlds at the moment. And like we wake up in reality, but then within moments we are plugged in, and kind of ready to go, if you know what I mean, and start like existing on another realm altogether. And they have complete control over the digital version of ourselves. They have a map of us that we, one, wouldn't even know, and two, would be so incredibly surprised about what level of information it has on us. We would be able to learn things about ourselves, quite intriguing things about ourselves that we would just never have thought of. And they've got it all mapped out, and they completely control that person, that digital ghost version of you. They use it, they sell it on a marketplace like it was, cattle or something like that. They herd it around and they sell it off in marketplaces, 300 times a day, I think it was. One of the stats that Shoshana Zuboff had told us in one of the lectures that we listened to of hers. I think it's 300 times a day. And that might be the lower end of it as well. But like there are digital marketplaces where like people's data is exchanged and sold at like these auction houses online. And like if you have a digital ghost somewhere, that thing is being traded 300 times a day on a marketplace. And so like, there, like I said, there are two worlds out there. This is some crazy stuff that we just can't even conceive of because we don't see it. And the techno feudalists, the surveillance capitalists of the world have been very, very curated and very, very cunning in the way that they have kind of made sure and kept away from public sight and public opinion the fact that they control this digital world where a lot of us, like I said, exists to a certain extent. And like the machinations of it, like how it truly operates in the shadows, is just unbeknownst to all of us. Like, we just have absolutely no idea how this works. And like, more than that, like, from internal memos from these tech bros themselves, they say to each other in correspondence that, like, people should not know this stuff. We really should never let them realize or know this, because they would be absolutely scared and shocked if it ever came out. And they would demand satisfaction. They would probably demand change if they ever knew how much they know about us in ridiculously intrusive levels of detail. And so I have painted the picture for you. I've set the scene. This is the type of world that we are dealing with. And like, this is only going to become more expansive, not less expansive. We are going to become more and more integrated because of stuff like this, the age of AI. Like, we are coming, like, if you thought the Internet of Things was important, like, we are on the cusp of a real, or if not, like, halfway through, let's say, an incredibly important revolution in artificial intelligence services too. And so, like, this stuff will become more and more important. So we need to give it the consideration it's worth, not just as like people that, like to speak about capitalism, but like, we need to actually understand this stuff if we actually truly want to fight against it. If we call ourselves anti-capitalist, then we're going to have to kind of, we're going to have to know this stuff. And we're just going to have to come to terms with it as well. And then like figure out strategies about like what we can do. And that's why, like, this movement needs to be online. To begin with, we need to work out and how to play within the boundaries and the rules of the game, so then we can really fight against it. And like, I don't think there is any problem with digital resistance. Like, we just need to know the rules of the game. Sorry, I just need to send a quick message. All right, so I've painted the picture for you. I've set the scene. This is what we're looking at today, and this is why we are looking at it today. And so, like, I want to finish off what we got up to last week. Like, last week we heard some damning stuff about Facebook, especially about Mark Zuckerberg. Like, Mark Zuckerberg has testified to this Senate committee before that, Facebook doesn't engage in the Chinese market. It would never compromise American user data in the Chinese market if it ever got there. And, you know, it's Mark Zuckerberg calls himself a champion of free speech and believes that his platforms are vehicles of free speech. And what we heard last time in the Senate committee was, no, Facebook does operate in China. They've been trying to break into that market for the last 10 years or more. Mark Zuckerberg's learnt Mandarin. He goes over in his private jet on a weekly basis, trying to set up a Facebook server or Facebook market in China. The Chinese Communist Party are happy to have it there, but they want it fully censored in line with their usual censorship controls. And so he's built specially tuned Facebook architecture to censor as per the requirements of the CCP. So Mark Zuckerberg and all the executives regularly meet with the CCP and like design things in their interests. They've even to try and show loyalty, Facebook that is, to try and show loyalty to the CCP and get that business or get access to the Chinese market. China were not happy with someone that was living in America talking badly about the Chinese Communist Party or some event that they were dealing with. And so basically, on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party, the Facebook censored a person living and working out of the United States. So the CCP are influencing what's happening in America through Mark Zuckerberg and through Facebook, which is like, all of this bodes incredibly, I guess, it's not just scary, but it's very, very concerning for American national security interests. And so, like, in order for like Facebook's application to run properly on Chinese soil, we've heard like testimony here that they set up pop-up servers in China, and these pop-up servers mean that, like, user data and information is held and maintained on Chinese soil. And so, like, if there are people integrating from other countries, including the US, with like Chinese Facebook users on Chinese soil, then their data is being held and compromised, or potentially compromised, on Chinese soil, which is again something that Mark Zuckerberg has kind of assured Senate committees in the past that this type of stuff wasn't happening. So he has basically, they've been accusing him of just blatantly lying about having anything to do with China. And so, like, this is the tech bros. This is what the tech bros do. They just lie about stuff to set up their empires and build them as strong as possible, as large as possible, as quickly as possible. And they know national loyalty. This is a really, really interesting one here, because, like, the nation state is a very bourgeois idea, and bourgeois culture is capitalism, right? And so, like, if these guys have really no national loyalties, like, they don't give a if they deal with China or the Communist Party, or they're dealing with America. They just want to control the digital highways, and they want to control the digital landscape, the entirety of the virtual world. They want absolute control over it, like total control. And so, like, nation states are just just another barrier to be, like, either jumped over or completely, absolutely destroyed if they can, like, just absolutely smashed to pieces. And so, like, you can see that on display here. This is very techno-feudal behavior, because the loyalty is to their bloodline, their family, and their empire, and no nation or anything like that. Even though Mark Zuckerberg has really curated his image recently to try and, as this whistleblower says, wrap himself in an American flag and call him a champion of free speech. He's grown his hair a little bit so it's curly. He wears, Ray-Bans and like kind of looks cool. And appealing to the common man, but, like, he has absolutely kind of no real affiliation with the commoners, as would you expect from a feudal lord. So a techno-feudal lord, they live in another world altogether. Yo, it's Wings of Cheese. Welcome to the stream. How's it going? It is going well. And happy Monday public holiday to you, sir. I hope you are enjoying your public holiday. If you are working, I hope you get showered in penalty rates. I'm hoping at least double time for you. If you're working today, that would be adequate compensation for you selling your labor power to a capitalistic employer. Even if they're not capitalistic, you could at least enjoy the fact that you are getting, penalty rates, baby. So I hope that is you, Wings of Cheese. And if you have been able to escape the clutches of capital today, I hope you enjoy your day off. But yeah, so some crazy stuff has come out, and, like, we even had some testimony from one of the senators. No, sorry, some inquiry from one of the senators into, like, Facebook's kind of nefarious operations when it comes to children. So, like, or young people, let's say, and how, like, they basically they know how to kind of use their platforms to manipulate the behavior of users on social media. And, like, I think she used the word, like, kick them while they're down. So, like, our whistleblower here gave, like, a very interesting story about how there was a target group in Facebook from 13 to 17 years old female called Vulnerable But Valuable. Now, doesn't that just say enough? Like, that statement? So the Vulnerable But Valuable group on social media. Ollie Atlas here, and the roll call has started. Thank you very much for coming in. Um, and, you know, they basically, the example she gave was, oh, Facebook knows that when a 13-year-old girl deletes a selfie, she's feeling self-conscious, she's feeling worthless, she's got a bit of self-doubt, and this is the trigger point when Facebook turns around to advertisers like, ding, 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 we have a goer. Let's try and sell her beauty stuff. I don't even know what the term for it is, makeup, like clothes, like whatever, like feel good stuff. And she's more likely to buy it in this state. It knows our emotional states. And it knows this from conglomerations of data and data patterns from conglomerated user groups. It knows this from your personal data. It is mining you. It is watching you. Like I said before, it knows things about you that you don't even know about yourself. And it is listening. It's not only predatory, wings of cheese. It is absolutely scary. It really is. Like, once we know the history, and we've been looking at this history for months now, like it really puts so much credence to the idea that like this is not a telecommunications technology. This isn't just an advanced way of speaking to people. This is a surveillance technology. And this surveillance technology can be put to use twice. Like it can be put to use for the government, or it could be put to use for the private sector in a capitalistic world, because those are the big dominant players. But like if we had a socialized version of that, this is why we are revolutionary. If we socialized all of this somehow, you could have that being used and put to good use for like, humanity, and for like, the masses of the population, as opposed to it just being used for predatory advertisements, classic trick of the oligarchs. So predatory advertising purposes to push products for private interests, or for like deep state purposes to control people and public opinion, and to suppress activists at home and like political rivals abroad. So instead of being used for their interests, this surveillance technology could be used just generally to help kind of society better itself somehow. Like we could use broad trends to help plan an economy. We could use broad trends to understand our populations better and serve them better with targeted services, and things that like people need in order to build communities and to survive as social animals. Oh, the Atlas, happy Easter to you. Happy Easter to you. And I hope that you enjoyed your weekend, or I hope you got time off. I'm not sure if you get public holidays where you are. We do in Australia for the Easter weekend. And so I hope if anyone has been working, any of us members of the working class, they have been duly compensated for that. And and enjoyed the time off if they didn't have to sell their labor power. So yeah, happy Easter. And like, I think everyone gets in on the old chocolate tradition. So like, I hope if you've had a big Easter weekend, you've had a bit of chocolate and you're feeling nice and content. So with all of that, I am going to now turn over to Sarah Wynn-Williams and the Senate Judiciary Committee to finish off the rest of this hearing, because I think it's important just to be across this type of stuff, like I've said. And like, it just gives us valuable insight into this world, because you never hear about this stuff really. Like I know it comes out and it breaks. Got Friday off from school. So yeah, all right. Okay. So they do have a little bit of time off for people to enjoy. So I'm glad you got a bit of time off for yourself. That's what life is about. It's about free time, like freedom, as opposed to being a slave to the requirements of your society, especially if it's just based around market exchange, unfortunately. But yes, we're going to hear the rest of what this committee has to say, because I do think it's really important to be across this stuff. We don't get it enough. We don't get enough of this conversation about what's really happening behind the scenes. I think there's multiple reasons for that. But like, It's important. It's in our daily life. Like I said, like everyone's got one of these bad boys in their hand all the time, in their pocket, on their person. Like, you probably go to bed with it. Some people even take it in the shower with them. Like, and if this is what this is, a sophisticated, at the end of the day, let's just look at this like a material perspective, materialist. If this at the end of the day is not just a fancy telecommunications um, product, but a surveillance product primarily, we need to know this. We need to know why we're holding this surveillance technology in our hand, and like, what we can do about that. I think that is actually crucial to the modern age. Like, if common sense for the working class in the 20th century was things like, don't drop out of school until you got a good job, and like, don't get someone pregnant, or don't get pregnant until you're set up a little bit so you can raise children or something like that, or go get a job in a fast food franchise, or something like go get a job at Macca's, because or something like that, because it'll teach you about the world, it'll teach you about customer service. If that's like the common sense of the 20th century, then the common sense of the 21st century should be like, this thing watches you, and there are many other devices that do the same thing too, and they collect data on you. So like, what do you want them to know about you? You should be cognizant of that, and like, only give away what you can, or what you think you can anyway, because they get more. But like, don't give it all away. Don't give it all away. That can be our common sense lessons for now. And we need some of that more than ever, because I feel like there is not a lot of common sense to go around these days. Not a lot at all, unfortunately. Jordan highlighted how advertisements get your emotions to peak, and then they try to sell you a commodity or a service. Yes, and like emotions, array of emotions as well, not just like elation. It's not just when you're really happy. Because if you're content, yes, sometimes you don't buy stuff because you're content, but they actually deal a lot with your anxieties. I think they've actually figured out that people are more likely to buy when they're anxious, or they're feeling like they're missing out on something. So like FOMO, or like they feel worthless, as she described, because that's when they need something to help them feel better, actually. And so like, they might heighten your emotions in many ways, not just in nice ways, let's say. All right, let us continue the hearing. And as always, stop in the comments. It's a little bit delayed, okay? Just so you know, like I've turned down the latency, so it's not hyper fast. And so there's a bit of delay. That's just so we can have captions, so you can, translate when I'm speaking with an Australian accent for all those people that can't understand me, like the Americans in the room. That's so you have captions. But like it's a bit of a delay. So a bit unrelated, but have you heard of Jim Browning? He hacks into the computers of scammers, the cameras in their call centers, and he tries to get money back from the victim. That's really cool. I remember there was this guy, I don't know, it must have been like 10, 15 years ago. I can't remember what his name was, but like he was a hacker, and he's basically called like Robin Hood. I can't remember exactly the name for him, but he's basically a Robin Hood type. And he hacked these banks, and he stole like millions of dollars off their books, and like gave it away to all of these poor people in these poor countries and stuff like that, and just like redistributed, like moved money from bank accounts, like banks to bank accounts of people in other countries and stuff like that. He got arrested, obviously, because like everyone on the face of the planet was looking for him. Like, that was a massive operation, because you can't let that happen, can you? You can't let that happen to the world financial system. And like, yeah, he got caught and serving life somewhere. But yeah, it's interesting when that sort of stuff happens. So there is digital resistance. I think that is a really good point, Wings of Cheese. There is, like, amongst all of this surveillance and all of this doom and gloom, this techno feudalism, there is avenues for digital resistance. And like, we have none other but than someone on here at the moment who is acquainted with this type of digital resistance too. And so like, we should kind of use our talents and our understanding of the digital realm to our advantage if we can. Like that guy who hacked NASA, then told them about the flaws in their security system. Interesting. That's a really interesting one. Because that's the thing, right? That, like, people that like have like basically work in security, cybersecurity and stuff like that. They hire hackers because like they know that these people are the ones that know how to attack the system, and like they want to know and use their skills. So like a lot of hackers end up turning around and getting jobs in government positions. They usually get blackmailed into it. I'm pretty sure it's just like, well, we've caught you and you've done all of these wrong things. Instead of going to jail, do you want to do some work for us for a little bit, and we'll let you off the hook. So the process is super cool on how he gets scammers. It also teaches great cybersecurity. If you don't mind, then Wings of Cheese, if you've got anything that you could link, like that we could watch in a stream, I would really be interested in watching that. A bit of digital resistance would be nice, I think. So yeah, hit us up, and you too, all the Atlas. If you could link, if you're in the Discord, I'm not sure if you are. If you could link in the Discord something about the NASA hacker, that would help a lot actually. And then we might look at it in a stream. He uses a virtual computer, a computer system within a computer system, and used Wireshark to trace their IP and find where they scam. It's usually in India, unfortunately. Sure, man, I'll show you a link. I'll send one. Thank you. I appreciate that. But yes, let us continue with our hearing. We should only have, half an hour to go. But I do want to I'd like to get through it and hear what else she has to say, because I think it gets personal as well. We actually hear what Facebook as a techno-feudal organization does to her as an individual for whistleblowing, which is pretty intense, I think.
Ms. Wynn-Williams, let me ask you a little bit more about the censorship tools that you've been asked about today, you've testified about, that were actually deployed in Hong Kong and Taiwan. And let's just look again at the privacy team email.
Yeah, if you could send it in the Discord, that'd be great. And then like I might have a quick squeeze and then use it for a stream. Thank you.
Not that one. That one. Yeah, so this is, and just so members of the press understand, the committee's in possession of this document. We have blacked out, as you...
Do you reckon those guys' jobs, like at the back there, are actually just to hold those like ridiculously outsized posters and stuff like that? It's like, I just need you to come along and hold up this poster for me. Like, why don't they have like a screen there? With like a projector or something like that. It's hilarious.
As you can see, we've blacked out the names of individuals here, but in the documents, we have those names. Of course, we'll follow all appropriate legal procedures, but just so the press understands, the committee is committed to doing a full investigation. We do understand and know who the people are on this chain. We can see who they are, and we can see the full course of the discussion. But I just want to emphasize something here. The update is they spoke with the China team. They flagged a potential course of potential complication of course of negotiations with the Chinese government. Let's just stop there for a second. Someone pointed out to you that Mark Zuckerberg testified under oath that he didn't know what the Chinese government's terms would be to operate Facebook in China because they were banned, quote unquote, in China. So he just had no idea. He was saying this as late as 2017, 2018. He just had no idea what the terms would be. That's just categorically false, isn't it?
Absolutely, Senator.
And this email shows that it is false, correct?
Correct.
In fact, what this email shows is Facebook is in very regularly close contact with members of the Chinese government, down to specifying how they want the censorship tools to work. They're giving feedback on it, back and forth and back.
You know what I really can't stop but think about is like, if they have intricately developed censorship tools for the Chinese Communist Party, like you don't let that stuff go to waste, right? Like if you've been developing hardcore censorship tactics for an authoritarian regime, like why wouldn't you just unleash that on the rest of the world's population, right? And like turn around to governments now as Meta, as this huge conglomerate, and just be like, hey, we operate in your country. Do you not like dissidents? Do you not like people saying stuff? And here's some sophisticated censorship technology approved by the Chinese Communist Party, by the way. It meets their gold standard of censorship. Would you like to try it? Like, that'll be $50 million, like, for 24 weeks, like, at the low price. And so, like, they developed this technology. You'd have to be pretty optimistic to think they wouldn't try and use it anywhere else, repackage it and do something else with it.
Back and forth. And here they've agreed on a set of censorship tools to deploy in Hong Kong, down to the fact that they say we're going to have to actually re-TOS. Does that mean terms of service?
Correct.
So in other words, they're going to have to push out to Hong Kong users a new click thing for them to click on, which they won't, of course, really understand or know because it's almost impossible to decipher. But in fact, what they're doing is it's allowing Facebook to stand up new censorship tools on behalf of the Chinese government. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, here's another interesting point. Back in 2012, the FTC here in this country, the FTC entered a consent decree with Facebook about privacy. Do you remember, Ms. Wynn-Williams, this would have been early on in your time at the company, but do you remember roughly any of the terms of that FTC consent decree? Because they are relevant here.
I do, Senator. They were intended to prevent Meta from deceiving people about the extent to which they collect and share their data.
Yes, so the part of the order is, and let me just quote, Facebook shall, quote, shall not misrepresent in any manner, expressly or by implication, the extent to which it maintains the privacy or security of covered information, end quote, which is user data. Now, Facebook is under a consent decree with the FTC on this basis, and yet they are deliberately misrepresenting across the world the security of user data. They are negotiating with the Chinese government to turn over user data, grant the Chinese government access to Chinese user data, including the Hong Kongese, including Taiwan, and yet they're representing to American government officials, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. In fact, they testified under oath. We don't make user data available. All of that was just lies. Is that fair to say, Ms. Wynn-Williams?
So can we expect another property boom, and what will it mean for
No, you
affordable
can't.
housing? For more, we are joined by Freedom.
Get fucked.
Senator,
Do that. In fact, they testified under oath. We don't make user data available. All of that was just lies. Is that fair to say, Ms. Wynn-Williams?
Senator, many decisions have been made, and they were all premised on the basis that Meta would hand over Chinese user data to the Chinese Communist Party.
So in addition to lying to Congress on what seems like a fairly regular basis, lying about suppressing dissidents, lying about setting up censorship tools, they've also arguably violated
Bring foreign authoritarian policies from our enemy to our homeland. How much would you be willing to pay that, my friends? It's true, right? And like, when we looked at the history of the internet a couple of weeks ago, like that's exactly what happened with the internet. The American military developed APRANET to surveil the Vietnamese enemy during the war in Vietnam. And then they were like, hey, let's use that technology at home. And they started surveilling students who were protesting against the war on university campuses and stuff like that. So like, this is not abstract to like kind of believe that they would turn around and use this technology in this way. Like, if anything, if you're going to develop some technology for someone, like, yeah, you do want to get, more bang for your buck out of it. And so even if other people don't really want it and they're not coming up to you, maybe you'll just start reaching out to them, like the governments of the world, and just being like, hey, we got this on offer. Are you interested? And, offering them a deal on it. It's pretty scary.
FTC consent decrees. And we have the documentation. This isn't just Ms. Wynn-Williams' opinion. This isn't just her recollection. We have the documentation with the Facebook employees, who I might add are high-level, executive-level employees, who are planning this and doing this. It's quite extraordinary. This was a pattern of operations at Facebook over and over and over. We'll come back to that, Ms. Wynn-Williams, but if you're ready, Senator Klobuchar,
Yeah.
I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I just again appreciate that you have come forward. In your book, you wrote that Facebook remade American news media by inserting Facebook at the center.
Yes, nothing has changed since good old Nam. Yeah, and I'm sure they think they're more subtle about it too, all the outlets. I'm sure they think they're very subtle. They can get away with goddamn murder, daylight robbery. Now, does anyone know this senator? Has anyone come across her, my American correspondence, if you could fill in the gaps for this simple Australian? What do we think about this senator, this woman? Have you heard? I know Jag isn't a big fan of Hawley, or Howley, however you say his name. But I'm not sure about this lady senator here.
Center of it, driving down ad rates for newspapers and distributing their stories using their content to boost time spent on Facebook. Senator Kennedy and I, as a side, have a bill to push negotiations for the price of content, which I think is really important. But could you explain how Meta uses news content to boost time spent on Facebook and how that allows Facebook to sell more advertising without paying publishers their fair share?
I mean, the key thing that Meta is obsessed with is engagement. It's keeping people's attention on the services that Meta owns for as long as possible, using whatever tools it can. So definitely the work of publishers and the work of many dedicated journalists, and also increasingly they're utilizing AI to keep engagement, often AI based on the work of journalists and authors.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And
on the of many, definitely the work of publishers and the work of many dedicated journalists, and also increasingly they're utilizing AI to keep engagement, often AI based on the work of journalists and authors.
mm-hmm, exactly. And when discussing ways to promote a healthy news market, you quoted Mr. Zuckerberg as saying, quote, "You're compromising with the dying industry rather than dominating it, crushing it."
That sounds like a techno-feudal lord, isn't it? Like when you ask a king if they should consider someone that's lower ranking than them, they're just like, excuse me, I dominate. And if I want to, I could crush them, like I think. And society's expectations is for people to laugh or call you a conspiracy theory or a nutcase for saying this stuff or making these theories. Yeah, I know, right? They do call you a conspiracy theorist if you bring up this type of stuff because people just want to use it. You know, they like the convenience of it. They like the app. They just don't want to know that like it's being created because, you know, it's watching them. And not the other way around. So like, you know, they like the service. They just don't like the fact that it's like, you know, it's like people like wearing nice, you know, in season and fashionable clothes. And like most people know, they're probably being made in a sweatshop or under conditions of like almost slave labor or by people that are being paid, you know, appalling rates for their work and their labor in like Bangladesh or something like that, but like they still wear it anyway because they like looking nice. So like, you know, it's hard for people to separate those two things in a capitalist society, especially when they're completely alienated from it. Like they're completely separated from the reality of the products that they're consuming. And yes, anyone who points it out and who smashes their little like fantasy world of comfort is a conspiracy theorist because, you know, you're making their life hard by slapping them in the face with reality, unfortunately.
What do you see with your experience as a consequence of Facebook?
People turn a blind eye so they don't have to feel any regret. Yes. And that's the beauty of a market system because you've exchanged for it. Hey, I pay for this shit. Like, I'm not the one who's like, you know, employing slave labor. I just bought the t-shirt. Like, it's the company, that's their problem. They should employ the slave labor. I just bought a t-shirt. I paid my dues. So, you know, technically I shouldn't have to worry about it. Thank you very much.
is allowed to dominate and crush an independent news media?
I think every citizen has seen the consequences of these actions, and I think we're all the poorer for it.
Thank you. When discussing the role that political ads play in Facebook's business, you observed that peddling outrage and stretching the truth were just part of the game, and that outrage is a lucrative business for Facebook. I care about this a lot, just being in this business of politics and how we know how negativity is awarded online, not just Facebook, in all of the algorithms in these companies, and it's actually completely changed the ecosystem that we work in. Can you elaborate more on how stoking political outrage is profitable for Facebook and ramifications for democracy?
Then people say, why should I care about politics? It doesn't impact my life. Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the alienation of it. I think my connection is a bit delayed. As in my audio is a bit delayed. Hope this fixes itself. My God.
Democracy.
I think we're all living with the consequences of this every day. As I said before, what this company wants is to dominate as much time and attention as it can of every, not just in this country, as many billions as they can. And what they've learned is that outrage is a really good way to do that, but it doesn't, whatever it takes to have people glued to these services in their power, in their thrall, they'll do it.
The major focus of this hearing, of course, on China, and I have to say that I found that whole piece of this ironic, because when Senator Grassley and I were trying to pass our bill about the self-preferencing, which was also, of course, got the ire of Google and Amazon, these other companies. You remember that day well when we had the hearing, Senator Hawley, the markup on this bill. Well, one of the things that kept being thrown in my face and in those of others that work on this is China. You're actually going to destroy us, and then China will dominate. And at one point, another senator actually said that was what national security officials said. And anticipating that, I'd actually gone around to the then head of the FBI, the head of the CIA. I'd called them all or seen them at things. And while they were getting in the business of endorsing, they said, no, this idea of doing something about putting consumer protections in and saying you can't put your own product all the time at the top of the search engine, that did not hurt our national security vis-a-vis China, but that is what they claim, and that's what's so interesting about your experience and your testimony. And your book actually reveals the extent to which Facebook was willing to put growth over the U.S. national interest to gain favor with the Chinese Communist Party, as you pointed out in your testimony today.
Isn't that very interesting as well? Like how in the name of national security, like these huge tech giants, these social media platforms don't want any type of regulation put on what happens kind of with their content in terms of like consumer protections, because they think that if there's regulations put on their technology, it'll delay the progress of this type of technology, artificial intelligence, all that sort of stuff, and that will be actually a bad thing for national security. And so, like, she's gone around and asked all of the people out there that are in the various elements of, the deep state in America, and they were like, nah, consumer protections won't hurt our national security. Like, you can put the reins on these guys a little bit. It's not just Facebook too. Like, the US for the politicians and the capitalists is that they utilize outrage in general. Yes, outrage is very lucrative generally for seeking attention. So yeah, you know, whether you're a politician or a capitalist or an advertiser or something like that, yeah, outrage gets you a lot of eyeballs. A lot of eyeballs. Eh? Nothing like being a little bit controversial from time to time, eh? There's something to learn there from, like, you know, dealing with human psyche and the masses. Bit of outrage goes a long way.
In fact, and I know Senator Grassley asked you about this, you wrote, Meta started briefing the Communist Party as early as 2015. You talked about this today. The explicit goal being to help China outcompete American companies. Could you elaborate on
I'm still flabbergasted by that. Like how, like, openly Mark Zuckerberg is just like, you know, I want to help China undermine American businesses by helping them out with technology and stuff like that. That's crazy. I think that's absolutely crazy. And this video is delayed, and I'm just going to quickly fix it because I'm pissed off that my webcam is doing this again. All right, we're back, and there's no delay on that. I don't know why that webcam gets delayed. So many technical difficulties. All right, let's do this. Back to it. Sorry about that. Very unprofessional.
that?
Ever notice there aren't any young bald celebrities anymore? This is Jason Alexander at 29, Michael Jordan at
Senator, Meta is very quick to say, don't do anything that can hurt us because you'll let China win. You know, you'll let China win on AI. You'll let China win and gain the technological advantage. And the whole time, the company that's done the most to help China gain a technological advantage is Meta.
Mm-hmm. So do you believe Facebook is an honest broker? This is called a softball. When it claims competition reforms would harm the U.S. ability to compete with China. Because I'm telling you, we hear this all the time. So every time we try to bring up any of these bills.
I hope what we've discussed today, Senator, helps you push back very firmly and gives you something to create some real accountability.
And then finally, Senator Cruz and I mentioned we have this bill, Take It Down, that's passed the Senate. Just your view that if Meta puts its considerable engineering expertise toward the problem of removing non-consensual intimate images that have the power to ruin lives, or even the selling of fentanyl or some of these other things, do you think they could do it?
Senator, they've shown to the Chinese Communist Party that when they're motivated to get something, to remove something, they can be absolutely expert in it very fast.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
Isn't that crazy? Like, there was a point at which they asked Facebook if they could, like, you know, stop people selling fentanyl, because people were using it, like international communities were using, like drug dealers were using like Facebook to deal with fentanyl and stuff like that. And Facebook were like, nah, we can't do it. It's not in our national interest to do that. It's not in it's like national security interests to do that, which is like, it's a big call. Like if you think about it. The woman in the green jacket looks really unnerving and evil. Something about it makes me so unnerved. She looks like she's crawled out of the pits of hell. And is that something that just got like you got pulled up and you got censored? I was censored. Well, how dare you for saying that? For giving us your commentary on the woman in the green jacket. And I still haven't heard from the Americans yet. Our American audience, like anything about this senator, because I am interested to know about these senators. Do y'all have Fetty in Oz? No, not that I know of. That's a really good question. Like, I'd never hear it talked about. Like, our big thing is meth. Like, meth is raging through like the rural areas and stuff like that. And like, regional communities. But I'm not sure about fentanyl. I haven't really heard about it. He looks a bit like Julia Gillard, Gillard. Sorry, yes, she does. And Jade and Jardy, welcome to the stream. I'm not sure if you've been on here before, but welcome. Yeah, welcome to the stream. Prescription fentanyl. Well, there you go. We have it on prescription. But not like the cook it in your garage in Mexico style and post it across the US border. I don't think we have that type. Apparently most of that stuff is made, like the chemical basis for it is like, just general industrial chemicals that you get from most industrial production, and most of that sort of stuff comes from China because they kind of dominate. Thanks. I've lurked for a bit. Like lurked on multiple streams or just this stream, but like, welcome. Welcome to the stream. If it is multiple, that's good to know. And welcome to the crew and the movement. If you want to actually like a background of what we're doing here, I've heard of it being cooked once. Like cooked in Australia. There you go. And apparently it's really easy to get these like ingredients to get it going. Apparently like really easy. It's really simple stuff. And like, you cook it for a couple of weeks in a garage somewhere and you've got thousands and thousands, like tens of thousands of doses and stuff like that. And you need like just a few liters. A little on multiple. Okay, right. Oh, welcome. How do you pronounce your name, by the way? Can you give me the phonetic on Jade? On Jade? That would be good. They should make it more funny and use all the tables and chairs to make a UFC arena. Think about the hearing. Yeah, there's a lot of empty chairs in the old hearing. And like the senators seem to come in and say their piece and then like take off. And it's just Hawley that's sitting there guiding the ship at the moment. Yeah, anyway. Back to it. Let's see what she has to say about fentanyl. But like, I thought that was crazy. How like, Facebook know that there are drug dealers like on WhatsApp and stuff like that. Like, like talking about getting fentanyl into like communities and stuff like that. And like the US have like reached out, like governments and stuff like that have reached out to like Facebook and just be like, can you tell us about this kind of stuff, or can you stop this from happening? And they're like, I don't know, it's gonna be bad for it's made up. Jade is fine. All right, you get it. You will be known this way until you tell us otherwise. Yeah. I like the council chamber in Star Wars. And like, yeah, they're not playing ball. They're not playing ball. And like, it seems to be a pretty scary crisis. And they're just like, nah, it's bad for business. Like we want these people to be able to exchange on Facebook Marketplace. Not actually on Facebook Marketplace, but you know what I mean. I don't think there is anything special about how do you say her name? Klabusha? Just a mainstream dem. I can't believe this is getting censored. Wow. That got censored? And what, putting it in quotation marks helped? That's the trick, everybody. If you are getting censored, like if you try and put stuff in quotation marks, sometimes that helps. I knew someone who got pulled up on Snapchat. They didn't get in deep shit though, just deleted. Ooh, interesting. Yeah, Snapchat gets a lot of like stuff moving. I remember people using like Snapchat, and what is it called? Tinder to like push like masks when like people were trying to get face masks in the height of COVID and they were really hard to get. People were selling them on like various social media platforms. Quotes worked, but still ridiculous. Yeah, it is ridiculous though, isn't it? Like it's not me that's saying. I'm just quoting somebody else saying it, so it doesn't matter. It's like, but like you can't. That's crazy how you got censored for saying someone's a mainstream Dem. Like calling someone mainstream Democrat is like hardcore. Apparently, whoa, 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 whoa. That is a bit. That's a bit much. That's a bit much. All right, let us continue. Shall we? Ever seen the Separatist Senate chamber from Star Wars? That'd be funny for in real life courts or politics, as it'd be a tighter space helping for funnier fights. No, I don't think I have seen the Separatist Senate chamber. Let's check it out. I wonder if I could just Google that. Separatist, what is it? Senate chamber. Oh, I don't think I've seen this. This must be in like the Clone Wars or something like that. Yeah, look at all these random aliens, eh? And we don't know what to do with aliens, eh? Ask the Americans. They'll tell you. We round them up and deport them. Send them to El Salvador. You got censored again. All right, that's it. I know we've had to try and do this as a competition in the past. It's like who gets censored the most. But like you're winning right now. Yeah, let me know if you write something in Discord. Like I want to continue with the Senate hearing. Not the Separatist Senate hearing. The one on Facebook.
Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would be interested in knowing, Ms. Wynn-Williams, when Meta...
Wait up. We'll see if this is good. If this was censor worthy. This is from Wings of Cheese. There were myths about people getting high from smelling feces in a jar. Well, and that got censored. There's people would sniff a lot of stuff to get high, apparently. I remember watching a documentary about people in the States actually like using some type of chemical that you clean your keyboard with, like your for your computer. And they just sit in cars and get absolutely smashed on like sniffing this stuff. And you just buy it at like Office Works or something like that, office supply stores. And like people just getting absolutely hammered off this stuff that cleans your laptop or your computer screen. I don't know why you got censored for that. Maybe because you wrote feces. You naughty person, you. Instead of pods, everyone just stands next to each other. All right. Let's get back to the Senate hearing. Come on.
first tried to silence you, when they first contacted you.
Yeah, this is interesting.
What was said to you.
Hear what Facebook does to
and
this
I
woman.
assume it was in the nature of a threat and a warning of some kind.
Yes, Senator. I have had some very, I'm trying to find the right word, aggressive threats from this company, and the last 4 weeks have been very difficult.
Apart from the threats in a judicial setting, have there been others?
This is your brain when you're struggling to focus. And this is your brain when you're in the zone, but getting in the zone.
My Lord.
Threats in
The last 4 weeks have been very difficult.
apart from the threats in a judicial setting, have there been others?
There have been a number of things, Senator, yes, yeah.
Would you prefer to tell us about that in private?
No, it's okay. I can. Sorry, it's hard, but I can talk about it. Yeah. So Meta has said. Even the choice to come to speak to Congress was incredibly difficult. Maybe it's helpful if I read what they told me.
Please do.
They said, the purpose of, they said if the respondent, well, with me, if I were permitted to communicate with legislators, that's you, such actions would create an exception to non-disparagement, that it would eat the rule. In such circumstance, nothing would limit or prevent those legislators or their aides from parroting to the public any disparaging statements. And I just want to pause here because a disparaging statement is a true statement. So it's telling you the truth. Respondent is barred from disclosing. So they were very clear that even coming to speak to you about the truth and about the concerns of national security and protecting our children and sharing these truths with you, that would have not only $50,000 for each truthful statement, actual damages for breach of confidentiality, actual and punitive damages for fraud and other claims.
So let me just be clear. In effect, they are warning you against what we might say publicly based on your comments to us, even though they might not hold you or bar you from coming here.
They have said that is a potential consequence. That is the order they have secured.
That, in effect, you'd be held responsible for what we might say as a result of your truthful testimony.
Not just you, Senators, something your aide might say. I mean, they frame it as something your aide might parrot.
In other words, what these folks in back of us might say, as well as what we might say.
Even though it's factual and true.
Even though it's factually true. In effect, I mean, now that you mention it, it creates pressure on us not to tell the truth to the American public, is the way I view it. It's, in a sense, threatening you and thereby putting pressure on us because we could have to worry about harming you as a result.
Please don't worry about harming me.
And when did they first contact you? I guess when they became aware of your book, or?
Well, that's right. They put out public statements when they first became aware of the book. But they also effectively tried to, I mean, I don't know I'm learning very fast about the system of arbitration, which seems incredibly unjust. But they sought to game that. They said that they...
Poor woman, like whistleblowing is so dangerous. The Boeing whistleblowers, for example, yeah, ironically, that was from one episode where the separatist Senate voted to end the war, but the senator responsibility was assassinated and the reactor on Coruscant was blown up as a false flag attack. Far out Star Wars, man. Hey? The man talking to this woman looks like he had a face pressed by an anvil from a Looney Tunes cartoon. Not very far from reality. These guys' eyes are completely dark. Yeah, it's actually not too far from reality, the Star Wars stuff. And like, you know, they do say fact is it's stranger than fiction. If you can't laugh, you'll cry. But like how scary is like what they're doing to her? They're just like threatening her. Like, you know, anytime they say something bad, because of what you've told them, whether it's true or not, you'll be in big trouble kind of thing. And I think it's like they've threatened her with legal, like the legal threat that they've given to her, Facebook have passed down to this woman is every time she mentions the word Facebook in a disparaging way, whatever that means, they're going to hit her up for $50,000 worth of damages. So if she does that 10 times, there's $500,000 for you. If she does it 100 times, like she's completely screwed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not sure what her financial position is, but like, every time you mention, the company, you get fined $50,000. That'll dry up your resources pretty fast. Like, I wouldn't even be able to say the first few letters properly. I'd just be like, "F," and then like, I'd be hit up for damages. So I'd be screwed. I'd be absolutely screwed. And like, she's doing a lot here, just to bring this out. Like, I don't know if they'll ever be able to, make good on that threat, but it's a scary threat if you think about it. Very.
Had notified me of an arbitration. They didn't. They have my they have my email on file. They have so many ways to contact.
Well, like in relation to this, how many people they threatened? Like they've threatened her, they've threatened the senators by extension, and the senators' aides by extension as well, because they're saying if you go on and continue to say what she's saying, we're going to hit her up and we're going to destroy her. So like they're threatening a lot of people, I think. But like they've threatened other people in the past because there's been other whistleblowers that have come out about Facebook and they did the exact same thing. But like listen to this. It is blackmail, but it's legal because, like, we live in a system, a bourgeois system that is built around, like, everyone's got a law degree and a law background. And, like, they love trailing things through the courts. That's how big operators survive. They just squeeze the life out of, like, little people in the courts because they just don't have the money to to play that game. I noticed the same effect on Tucker Carlson when he silently laughed. Roseanne Barr screamed out propaganda. You can see her fear. It is palpable. It is palpable. It is very blackmailish. It is. It's a threat, like kind of thing. And like, listen to this arbitration process, okay? So arbitration, if everyone's ever been through arbitration, is like you have two parties that can't agree on something, and before you go to legal proceedings or something like that, you have an arbitrate. Like, so like someone appointed by the government, usually in the head of like a commission or a tribunal. So like they're a professional arbiter, and like their job is to like bring two parties together and get them to agree on something. And so Facebook initiated arbitration on her. So listen to her story about this. This just shows you the legal ins and outs. You want to talk about blackmail and games and all that sort of stuff. Listen to how Facebook treat this arbitration process. Very interesting.
They have my email on file. They have my. They sought to game that. They said that they had notified me of an arbitration. They didn't. They have my they have my email on file. They have so many ways to contact me. I worked for them for a long time. Most of the senior executive have emailed me, but they chose not to notify me through that email address. So I was not able.
They issued a public statement. So they first went public and then contacted you.
Well, they didn't contact me, but yes, Senator.
And what did they do to start the arbitration process?
They started it without me. They secured the order without me.
Without any representation?
That's correct, because I was not aware of it. They'd sent it to an email address from 2007.
And my understanding is that you were regularly communicating with Meta, but they still used a defunct email address to serve the notice of the emergency arbitration. You were provided no notice of the proceeding, the appointment of an emergency arbitrator without your legal team knowing or having an opportunity to object, and the initial hearing took place without anybody from your legal team participating.
Yeah, I didn't know about it, so I couldn't participate in it.
And once they had an emergency gag order in hand, they knew how to reach you, correct?
Senator, I was, well, honestly, I was trying to get my toddler to eat some oatmeal, and the doorbell went, and it's a little embarrassing, but it was just after the book had published, so I thought it might have been someone delivering flowers. No, it was a gag order.
So Meta's flowers were a gag order, and they knew where you were. They had no trouble reaching with the emergency gag order. They didn't bother letting you know about the arbitration process or anything before they got what they wanted.
They obviously knew where my home was the entire time.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think that this experience is kind of a textbook example of the kind of problems that we hear from our constituents relating to forced arbitration. I happen to be the lead sponsor in the Senate of the Forced
arbitration. There you go. So there's avenues outside of the legal process, and one of them is called arbitration. It happens in most countries that have a decent legal system. But you can start an arbitration process as one party, and their job was to basically, they sought emergency arbitration because they knew she was going to release a book, and they didn't want her to release a book, and they didn't want her to talk about it. Okay, so they can't do much about the book, I'm guessing, but they definitely didn't want her to speak. So they set up arbitration process, so outside of court proceedings, so they can get this is a tactic, right? You fight on multiple fronts. So the arbitration process started by them. They have a claim as a party in the arbitration process. They served her an email about this emergency arbitration that needed to take place. They sent it to an email from 2007. Okay, so they've obviously, she was employed with them for 7 years until 2017. So 2010, they picked an email, the address that she said she claims she doesn't use anymore, and it was one before she was even employed with them. So it's before her history with that organization, and they served it to that. So they obviously wanted her not to show up at the arbitration, and because of the emergency style of this arbitration, something needed to be coming out of it. So the arbiter would be, I guess, running under the assumption that this person is not going to show up, and so Facebook have been we demand a gag order. We don't want her to speak. We don't want her to speak anyone. And so the arbiter was well, she's not even going to show up to arbitration. She obviously doesn't care. You can have what you want. And so they get an emergency gag order through this arbitration process. And lo and behold, as soon as they've got that in their hand, knock, knock, knock on the door. Hello, here's your gag order. You shut up or you're done. You're cooked, young lady, kind of thing. And like she said, they obviously had no trouble finding her. So they could have found her and issued her with the arbitration notice if they wanted. But this is just part of the legal bourgeois game. This world is set up for large-scale private interests to basically dominate the world. Like when two big titans of industry or two big corporations come together and fight each other, they don't do it like this. But this is a system that's set up. It's supposedly to set up little differences between little parties, but big organizations can use this to just crush little people they weren't even there, kind of thing. The gaming lobby tried to do this to Jordan. So evil, there you go. Wild that the judge or any of the lawyers will ever see prison bars. Yeah, well, probably not. Let's be honest. It's not how the system works. It's not designed like that. Let's be honest.
Arbitration and Justice Repeal Act, it's the FAIR Act, which would end these kinds of abusive clauses that enabled them to do what they did with you, Miss Wynn-Williams. Just so we're absolutely clear, they're trying to force you to pay them this $50,000 in liquidated damages for each so-called disparaging comment, true comment, which they regard as unfavorable to them, even when you tell the truth about their misconduct, correct?
That's correct, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Before we let you go, Ms. Wynn-Williams, just one other line of of questions, if I could. Just one other subject. You actually touched on it with Senator Blackburn. She was talking to you about the kind of research that Facebook has done and the kind of advertising that they're willing to sell. And to me, what's so interesting about this is we've seen, frankly, the moral bankruptcy of this company and its leadership when it comes to China. And we've seen them be willing to lie to Congress, lie to the American public. We've got the documents in black and white. We've seen them be willing to give away American user data. But they were also trying to find out a way to make a buck on Americans, teenagers, children in times of distress right here in the United States. And I just want to give you an opportunity to comment on this. Here's an internal Facebook chat where a Facebook policy director asks, is it really accurate that Facebook is doing research into young mothers and their emotional state? Is it your understanding if there's other research related to young mothers? Answer, yes. I looked at one list of research topics and saw one about young mothers and their emotional state. Coming down, the person says, I'm wondering about asking my apparently morally bankrupt colleagues if they are aware of any more. This is about Facebook's program to target ads to people when they are in emotional distress. Is that right? Is that what we're seeing here?
That's correct, Senator.
And that included teenage girls, as you were discussing with Senator Blackburn, those who had maybe recently deleted a selfie, maybe not feeling very good about themselves, and Facebook said, oh, fantastic opportunity. We could sell this to advertisers. It apparently also included young mothers who are in moments of distress. I mean, who knows what that might include? Everything from the spilled oatmeal you were trying to put into your toddler's mouth. I have 3 children, so I understand. Or who knows what, much, much worse things. So Facebook is constantly looking for opportunities to sell to advertisers, to make a buck, even on their own users. And they're doing it by tracking their users all over the place, tracking their emotional state. I mean, have I got that accurate?
You've got that accurate, and beyond that, it's things like things that often do concern teen girls, like body confidence. You know, that's something else that they use to target, you know, weight loss or other things on you know, children, really, 13 to 17-year-olds.
So, to your knowledge, did Facebook, after this email exchange, you know, where another user says, I think it's a slippery slope here, and then there's the admission, there is a level of behavioral targeting. I mean, just to be clear, I want everybody to see this. There is a level of behavioral targeting. I mean, these are Facebook executives. Again, this is a policy director in this chat.
That's why, like, sometimes when I'm like talking about this stuff, like, you know, oh, they behavioral target people, like, you know, they modify people's behavior and stuff like that. Like, you know, I feel like I'm being conspiratorial, like it's all up in the air. Like, but these are people within the organization that are just like, isn't this like behavioral targeting kind of stuff? Like, are we sure we want to do this? Isn't this a slippery slope? Like, there are people within that are just like, ooh, I know I'm supposed to make the company profit, but like, where do we draw the line exactly? Like, between like just being outright, like absolutely immoral leeches on society, like a plague on society, as opposed to just offering service. We're actually detracting and dehumanizing people. We are detracting from the human race, basically. We're not adding to civilization by doing this. It's not like they're producing a product and like everyone lives a little bit better before it. Like, if they're just manipulating emotional people, like, you know, I don't think that actually helps society at all. Like, at least old school and old fashioned industrial capitalists, while they might have, you know, destroyed the environment or something like that, at least they like gave people a product, and like it was usually better quality back in those days too. But like, you know, this is just, I don't see how this adds to the human race at all. And like, you know, it adds more weight to the idea that these surveillance capitalists aren't really capitalists, or that they are proto-feudalists, because like, you know, market stuff doesn't matter to them, because like they just want to control people. They just want to control people, which is, it's next level. Next level. What would be the argument though? Defamation is harder in the US and she's being truthful. She's not misrepresenting the truth. Yeah, I don't know what the argument would be, but like they're threatening her, and like sometimes threats are enough. I think, like, if you're a small player, you're not a massive corporation like this that has billions of dollars at their disposal. That kind of thing. Like, do you really want to go through? Like, sometimes just being dragged through the courts is enough. Like, they don't actually have any prospects of winning, but they can drag people through the courts, and that emotionally destroys people as well as financially destroys them. So they just want to destroy them. So, like, instead of taking them into the octagon or something like that and beating her up, or like hiring someone to break her legs, like they'll just emotionally traumatize her and destroy her through the court system. I think that's enough to destroy average people, because like they have to take time off, they have to do all of these things, they represent themselves maybe, or they fund the whole thing themselves, and they get nothing out of it, but they have a lot of costs along the way, and like costs beyond like the price of it in monetary terms, and a lot of costs. So that's probably what it really is. Twisted and depraved, yes. So FB, Ollie Atlas says, so FB is an exploitative psychologist. Yeah, it seems that is the case. And like, look at the groups they're targeting, like teenage girls, and like, new mums, or like, pregnant mothers and stuff like that, who are in heightened emotional states, so they can prey upon them. Like, seems that way. They impoverish you. They impoverish us all, apparently. You could say it's a fate worse than death. Yeah, especially if it's regressive, like for society, like this type of stuff. If like people just start to become more and more kind of reliant on this to survive, kind of thing, and like it reads their emotions and everything that they're doing and knows what's going on better than they do, then like the human race will kind of come to a stop. And that's the problem with feudalism. Like we call it, the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages and all that sort of stuff for a reason. There was a big period of it where not a lot of stuff moved, because like just a certain group of people controlled all of the information and controlled how people thought and how they lived and all that sort of stuff. So like, if we are going into like a techno form of feudalism here, then yes, it doesn't bode well for the human race, kind of thing. Would be a fate worse than death. Oh, right, yeah, being dragged through the courts. Oh, yeah, God. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Especially, like I said, if you don't have the resources and the energy. You need energy to do that sort of stuff. And they have armies of lawyers. They do.
Acknowledging that this is what Facebook is doing. Did it stop? Did Facebook stop doing this?
Not to my knowledge, Senator.
Yeah, in fact, we know they didn't, because other whistleblowers came forward to show that at Instagram, owned by Facebook, there was explicit targeting that goes on. There was explicit knowledge that the Instagram product was causing, in some cases, severe emotional distress, particularly to young girls. Facebook kept right on doing it anyway. Is that just because it made them a bunch of money?
Senator, as a mother of 3 children, it's very hard to say this, but yes, one of the discussions I had with one of the business leaders was like, we just don't need to do this. Like as a company, Meta's now $1 trillion company. It is not short of money. It doesn't need to do this. And what he explained to me is like, we've got the most valuable segment of the population. Advertisers really want to reach 13 to 17-year-olds, and we have them. We should be trumpeting it from the rooftops. It's
really just extraordinary. I think what we've seen here is the evidence that you presented, the evidence.
Hell is full of lawyers. Yeah. Well, like, if you put like, if you see those charts of what like, the hierarchy was like in feudal times, where you have, the king and, I don't know, the church and the knights and stuff like that, and then like soldier class and then peasantry. Like, the lawyers are like the knights. They are the guardians of the realm. Like they protect the corporate interests, and allow them to stay on top. They're the defenders of the realm in that sense. They allow them to stay on top and continue to act, because they hold up even governments that try to regulate them. The lawyers will kind of fight, armies of lawyers will fight for these massive corporations and allow them to continue wreaking havoc on the rest of us plebs. So they're one of the few companies close to as rich as the Saudi royal clan. It's $1 trillion company. Yeah. Like the massive. massive wealth that they've got, and like, you know, crazy amount of access to capital. And like, you know, do we really need to do this? Do we need to prey upon like emotional pregnant women? Yeah. How else are we going to make more money?
That we have in black and white is a company and leadership that is willing to do anything, work with America's chief competitor, work with our chief adversary, sell out other American businesses, sell out American user data, lie to Congress, lie to the public, anything in order to amass more power and make a buck. Can I just ask you, you know Mark Zuckerberg very well, you spent a lot of time with him. He's recently tried a reinvention in which he is now a great advocate of free speech after being an advocate of censorship in China and in this country for years, after suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story, after working hand in glove with the Biden administration to suppress content on COVID, to suppress content on masks, to suppress content on election questions, on vaccines, all of that. Now that's all wiped away. Now he's on Joe Rogan and says that he is Mr. Free Speech. He is Mr. MAGA. He's a whole new man, and his company they're a whole new company. Do you buy this latest reinvention of Mark Zuckerberg?
To be frank, the hardest thing of all is to make something out of nothing. You know, the terror of the blank
all over
page.
the place with these ads.
What do you?
Like all over the
Senator,
place.
there are two things.
Buy this latest reinvention of Mark Zuckerberg?
Senator, there are two things. If he is such a fan of freedom of speech, why is he trying to silence me? And the other thing is that this is a man who wears many different costumes. When I was there, he, wanted the president of China to name his first child. He was learning Mandarin. That was, he was censoring to his heart's content. Now his new costume is MMA fighting or whatever, free speech. We don't know what the next costume is going to be, but it'll be something different. It's whatever gets him closest to power.
If he were here, is there anything you'd like to say to him?
Senator, I have a lot of questions for Mark Zuckerberg, but he has proven time and time again that you cannot believe his answers. He's lied to members of Congress, he's lied to his employees, and he's lied to Americans. And that's why I'm asking this committee to hold him accountable.
Well, we're going to do that. And I just have to say, I don't trust his latest reinvention at all. He sat where you have sat in front of this committee multiple times in my short time in the Senate. Every time it's a different answer. Every time it's a different facade. But every time, the one consistent through line is every time it's something misleading. Every time it's something other than the truth. Every time it's about Mark Zuckerberg, not the American people. It's about Mark Zuckerberg, not what's good for this country, not what's good for his users, not what is the truth. And I, for one, am very tired of it. So I have a message to Mark Zuckerberg as well, which is that it's time for you to tell the truth. You should come to this committee and take an oath and sit where Miss Wynn-Williams is sitting now and answer this evidence. Stop trying to silence her. Stop trying to gag her. Stop trying to hide behind your lawyers and millions of dollars in legal fees you're trying to impose on her. Stop threatening other whistleblowers. Come to this committee, take the oath, sit there, let us question you, and give the American people the truth. We will be waiting for you. Senator, anything further?
Well said, Mr. Chairman. I associate myself with your remarks, and what I would say to him is stop silencing Ms. Wynn-Williams, for starters. And I go along with you that he ought to come here and tell the truth. I just want to clarify that the statement on speaking to Congress was from the arbitrator. Is that right?
The arbitrator that Meta saw.
The arbitrator that Meta obtained, and the gag order is still in effect.
That's right, Senator. This may be the last time I'm allowed to speak.
Well, it's not going to be the last time you're allowed to speak if we have anything to do with it. What I would say to Mark Zuckerberg is stop gagging Ms. Wynn-Williams. Let her speak the truth, and you come here and tell us your version of the truth, if you have the guts to do it. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
I can promise you, Ms. Wynn-Williams, that this will not be the end. This is just the beginning. We are going to get the truth, and you have done a great service to the American people by telling the truth here today. Thank you for being willing to do it. With that, this committee is adjourned.
Well, I wonder if they were just being all macho at the end there, and just be like, yeah, like if we have anything to do with it, you'll be able to speak again. I wonder if they got rid of the gag order, or they've like intervened as Congress people to try and figure out a way in order to get, her to be able to tell her story, or they're just telling her nice things, so she feels a little bit better about herself, I guess. We'll never know. At least it wasn't trumpet of pancakes. I'm assuming that's a reference to the trumpet of patriots, and Dirty Clive, and his stuff. Ollie Atlas, you got redacted, mate. You got censored. So I'm not sure what you were trying to say about the Saudis and their monarchy that it doesn't look like you like too much. But you got censored. So like, if you are on Discord, then like, hit me up on Discord, and I will try and read out what you got censored for, which is like ridiculous, right? Like, you guys can't comment stuff, but like I can just say it instead and it gets through. But like, in saying that, like, because Ollie Atlas and you, Jade, as well, welcome. Jade, to the stream. I'm glad that you've come out of the shadows now and you're no longer lurking, and you feel confident enough to speak to the rest of us in this broad and motley crew of a movement. But like, come and join us on Discord. There's an invite. We share propaganda and we have conversations like we've been having today, so come and join us there. And come and join me on Patreon, please. I get my, why does it say it like that? I don't know why. Hope this works. This is how I get notifications to people, because I can't get notifications through to people from social media, because like, the algorithms on social media, they give notifications to some but not others. It's just part of their game. So like, if you really want notifications, and I really hope that you do, then please go to Patreon and just become a member for free. If you can financially support, I would love that. And then I'm getting steps and steps closer to getting actual Facebook premium, so we don't have to have ads on the streams. But yeah, come and join on Facebook to get notifications. Sorry, on Patreon, so you can get notifications, because I can get them emailed to you and I don't have to fight the algorithm for that. So but like, yeah, come and join the conversation on Discord. Now, like, it's funny because like, while we were going through that, like, I got a we started discussing like, how Facebook is like a or Meta is $1 trillion company. And I watched this really interesting video recently that kind of detailed like the richest companies in the world kind of thing, I guess you would call them, and like lists them all, like the top 100 richest companies in the world. And so like, I'm going to try and find that, because I thought that was incredibly interesting. And like, my internet is so slow today, can I just say? Like, I guess it's because it's a public holiday, and maybe the internet around here is on holiday as well. The National Broadband Network has taken a holiday. Fuck, it is so slow. Oh, you better work. View all, here we go. I hope I can find it. Let's see. Yes. Yes, I found it. All right, let's watch this. This is mental. Drag that.
Hello. Crack open opportunities with Combank Lending and Finance.
It's not an ad. I don't want you to watch an ad. It's not that, I swear.
My work is easy because I use ClickUp. Here's how I keep track of all my tasks. I start.
That was really fast. God damn. Okay, watch this. Okay, let's watch this together. This is like a list of the top richest companies of the world in 2025. Okay, so like I don't know if you've been across these types of videos before, but they're very interesting and you can't stop watching them. And you're just like, oh my God, I want to see who comes next, that kind of thing. So like, you know, let's see where Meta sits in this hierarchy. And like, if you think $1 trillion is a lot, like, you know, thank you. Thanks for screenshotting that. Actually, why did you screenshot that? Was there something wrong with it? Oh, this is what you're trying to say, and you got censored. Okay. If these senators cared about Facebook manipulating people and taking their data, this is from Wings of Cheese, by the way, was manipulating people and taking their data away taking their data or any social media stop them from operating. Use the army of public service and arrest them for their sins. Well, it'd be nice if they just put them to justice or made regulations which stop this type of thing from happening. I think that would be what the public, you know, servants of the world could do, that's what the governments could do, like really just, you know, put heavy regulations and stopped, like, you know, massive corporations from going after whistleblowers and stuff. But it seems like America's whistleblower kind of culture is much better than Australia's, let's be honest. Like, we treat our whistleblowers horrendously in this country. Like, look at that. The guy that did all the whistleblowing against the ATO, the Australian Tax Office, and like he was facing, you know, 20 years in prison for like calling out corrupt activity, and like, you know, he wasn't wrong, but like he was a whistleblower, so they threw the book at him. Anyway, check out this list, eh? The veritable who's who. Check it out. I don't know who Lotus Cars is. Adidas, 4.5 billion. Monster is bigger than Adidas. Can we just take a moment to realize that energy drinks is a bigger industry than producing, like, you know, sports apparel. So the shit that people drink because they think it's going to help them with sport and stuff like that is better than the actual stuff that helps people with sport. Like, you know, I find that like absolutely amazing. That's just me. Volkswagen, 48.8 billion. BMW. The Germans, gotta love those Germans. Mercedes-Benz. Oh, this is really loud. Turn that down. It's because it's used by gamers. That's a pretty good point, actually. Didn't think about that. Look at that, Koreans are getting in there with LG. I didn't realize LG was Korean. I don't know why. And there's the Japanese in there. FedEx, 66.8. Ferrari. Airbnb. Here's a techno feudalist for you, ladies and gentlemen. Here's your first techno feudalist on the list, I think. Airbnb, $82.5 billion. $1 billion. Intel, another techno feudalist, one of the founders of Silicon Valley, right? PayPal, $89 billion. Spotify, another techno feudalist. There's Nike coming in there. Eh? Like, look at this traditional capitalist making products for people in the real realm. Lame. Isn't that interesting? Another like food capitalist coming in and like trumping someone that makes like physical like products like that you wear and stuff like that. Like food, much higher turnover for capitalist production's sake. Like you eat it, you buy more, like kind of thing. Nikes, you might try and wear them for as long as you can until you buy more Nikes. Very interesting how the modern capitalist game works. It's so unfathomably rich, it makes me cringe thinking about it. Well, mate, we haven't got any. We're 1 minute into a 5-minute video. Watch this. Starbucks. I know who Xiaomi is. Japan. Airbus. Ah, the French. Unilever. I don't know who Unilever is. Maybe food. But look at that logo. Uber. Here we go. Another techno feudalist. Palantir. That's one for you, Jag. 159 billion. Hey, it's more profitable than Uber. Palantir. More profitable than Uber. What is Palantir doing in the shadows then, eh? People will buy more coffee and pastries and shoes. I think that's a good point. But like, you know, coffee and pastries is like, you know, a fraction of the cost of a pair of Nikes anyway. My God. It's like the Space Bodies video. What's the Space Bodies video? I don't know that reference. Commonwealth Bank. Can we just all take a moment for the Australians? I know everyone else doesn't really care, but the Australians in the audience, like we have, I think, one company on this list, and lo and behold, it's a fucking bank. There you go. And like it used to be, the Commonwealth Bank was our national bank, and then they privatized it, and lo and behold, it's one of the richest companies in the world, preying on the Australian public. The Commonwealth Bank. Bastards. These are market cap, right? Not profit. I don't know how they delineate. That's a really good question. Ooh, it doesn't actually say. Oh, that's bullshit. I want to start investing. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe it's their market? What they're worth on paper, maybe? Because like they don't really talk about profits. Because like I'd say this, if it was based on profit, all of these companies would be 0, 0, 0, because none of them would be making profit on paper, because then they'd have to pay taxes, right? Hey, you can't have that. Hey, paying taxes is for plebs, like, you know, us. We pay taxes. Guessing market cap then, yeah. Big sons, too much bigger sons. I don't know these references. RBC, Canada's there. See, another World Bank, Commonwealth country. Consultancy services in India. Caterpillar. L'Oreal. Ah. Adobe. I don't know AMD. Don't know what that is. Ooh, Disney. I thought Disney's more profitable than that. 193 billion. Not that that's the problem. And like General Electric, like this, General Electric would have been like, you know, top of the tier 100 years ago. Like top tier. And like we're only 2 minutes and 20 seconds in. And we got like, you know, we got more than halfway to go, ladies and gentlemen. Alibaba. Abbott Laboratories. I wonder what they do. Bank of China. Macca's, $200 billion. Oh my God. PepsiCo. Shell, so oil. We're finally getting to oil. More lucrative than food, apparently. IBM, here we go. One of the original techno feudalists. Nestle, food again, very important. Like this is a really good representation of like, you know, like the capitalist ecosystem. Like, you know, a lot of people have a lot of problem with like a Marxian kind of analysis of capitalism and stuff like that. But like, you know, who are the most profitable businesses out there? People that are producing like value, sorry. And it's like food, computers, oil, clothes, and then like your financial capitalists that kind of live off the system. They don't produce value, but they like lubricate the entire system. Okay, so like think about that. Remember that there are like people that produce value, and there are people that lubricate the system, that make kind of the system circulate and flow. Those are your two kind of important players, and that's a very Marxist kind of analysis of the capitalist system. It's very interesting. There we go, brus, Macca's. That's the Pepsi logo. Yeah, I know, it's weird, isn't it? But I guess that's their kind of parent company logo. Vectra China. Another lubricating financial capitalist, American Express. I don't know what Roche is. Switzerland. Toyota car manufacturers, hey? We expect to see more of them. IHC, don't know. Samsung, hey? The Koreans. Coca-Cola, there you go. 268 billion. Yeah. ISBC. The bank. SAP. Don't know. Look at this. What a jump from 305 to 350. Bang. Johnson & Johnson. Pretty much what? Pharmaceuticals, right? Beauty products and stuff. Netflix. Techno Feudalist. 360. Netflix is worth more money than Macca's, than Coca-Cola, than Nike, than Adidas, all that sort of stuff. This is the new element of the consumer economy. David Harvey speaks about this a lot, about like how if you create like rapid consumption, he calls it even the Netflix economy, like you can produce more capital because you can produce more profit, because you can have people instantaneously consuming something and then they come back and they consume more and more of what you've got. And so you can turn over more profit quickly. That Roche is pharmaceutical. Interesting. And so we're starting to see the pharmaceutical industry like popping up here and there, right? What flag is that? Iraq? My brain turned off through the high. I don't know what flag that was with IHC. Yeah, I know. It looks like there's a lot of flags that all look similar like that. I'm not sure. Someone can fact check it. Novo Nordisk. I wonder what they do. Procter and Gamble. I don't know. 377 billion. Let's see what it jumps to. Then next one, 408. Costco. 408 jumps to 443. Tencent. China. Oracle. Techno Feudalist. 446. Mastercard. Again, Techno. No, they're not a Techno Feudalist. They're financial capitalists. ExxonMobil. Got Oilian. 489. And look at the jump here. 489 to 600. Visa. Lubricating the world's economy. Okay. JP Morgan. Financial capitalist. 700 billion. 750 billion, really. 790. Lilly. Anyone know what that is? Walmart. Look at that. 826 billion. 874. That's the semiconductors, TSMC. So they make all of the semiconductors, and there's like thousands of supply chains that come from all over the world that converge in Taiwan, and then like they kind of are one of the main powerhouses in semiconductor production for the entirety of the planet. And if you think about the amount of stuff that has a microchip in it now, like kind of thing, like a semiconductor or something like that, lots of stuff are full of electronics. And so you could really see from a Marxian kind of perspective, like how, capitalism as a mode of production, this is where the importance flows in value production. Everyone writes that sort of stuff up and says it's very antiquated industrial revolution kind of view of the world. But the value producers are in there. Ooh, yucky. Now look at the jump here, 1 trillion. So we've just gone from 874 straight to 1 trillion. And that's Berkshire Hathaway, I don't know, financial maybe? Broadcom, what's that? Tesla, 1.2 trillion. And why did we start watching this? Because she claimed that Meta was $1 trillion economy. 1.2 trillion jumps to, boom, $1.8 trillion for Meta. And here's Aramco. Is that what is this? Who are these people? Warren Buffett's company is Berkshire. Oh, well, finance. There we go. So either producing value or you're lubricating it for the rest of the world. Give me 1 moment, please. 1 moment. I will be right back. Don't leave. All right, where were we? Sorry about that. So who's Aramco? Aramco, is that associated with oil or something like that? Meta has dropped to 1.2 since this video was published. That's funny. Oh, it's the UAE. Okay, interesting. Thank you. I didn't know what country that was, and they may be associated with oil then. Just a wild guess there. Yes, Meta has dropped since we did this stream. Like, everybody on the stock market was watching this stream pretty closely, I'm sure. Tesla has dropped. Is that right? Whoa, eh? Yes. You can blame your mate Trumpy boy for that, but don't worry. They're going to go up again once all the dust settles. Look at that, Google 2.29. Techno-feudalists, here we are. Here we are. Your biggest techno-feudalist so far, 2.29 trillion. Amazon. No, I take it back. Pole position, techno-feudalists. Bigger than Google. I'm surprised. Oh, how could we forget the people that actually hold the world economy together? Hey, because they offer most of the computing services to the entire commercial sector. Microsoft, 3.1 trillion. And then Nvidia, 3.2, because they make all the microchips. I don't think Nvidia is that much anymore, to be honest. It's probably various things that they're up to, yeah. That's a lot, man. So, like, the top of the world. So this is really adds credence to what we've been speaking about. The techno-feudalists own the world now. Apple is king. The techno-feudalists own the world. I'm glad we actually did this. I'm glad we went through that thing. Like, I don't know how well sourced that is, but, like, you know, even if it's just a general trajectory, like, the biggest companies in the world are techno-feudalists. And, like, I've been saying this for a while now, like, talking about this, and, like, you know, how these techno-feudalists, like, are at Trump's inauguration. Like, the leader, like, the new king and emperor of the free world, like, you know, who leads it politically, you know, had at his inauguration, these three companies here, like, just didn't have representation from Apple, I guess. But, like, you know, the biggest techno-feudalists, or some of the biggest techno-feudalists were there. They're there, paying homage to the leader of the free world. So that was an interesting little exercise there, might I add. So, yeah, look, we are done with the Facebook hearing now, and we'll continue our investigations into the bourgeoisie, this new highest form and element of the bourgeoisie, our techno-feudal overlords. And we'll continue our investigations from there, basically. But, like, yeah, this has been eye-opening, and, like, I've learned a lot about Meta, unfortunately or fortunately, but we need to know what the stakes are in this game, and that's why we're doing these investigations. So thank you everybody who has joined today. Really appreciate the input. I appreciate everyone's interaction and commentary. Honey32, I know it's late for you, but thanks for chatting at the start, so I'm not sure if you're still there and just listening in the background. Jag, thank you very much. Wings of Cheese, Ollie Atlas, as always. Jade, it's nice to have a new person in the stream, so thank you for interacting and, like, coming along. I'm not sure if you've just been watching for a while now, but, like, yeah, do go on over to Discord, and any of you that haven't, and so you can join in the propaganda over there, and please go and become a member on Patreon. It would be good to try and get you notifications through that platform as well. But yes, I'm going to leave it there. And until next time, so tomorrow we'll be doing Twitch stream. And then we'll jump around, like, end of the week, we'll do YouTube and stuff like that. But yeah, until next time, please remember, I am, you are, we are a mystery. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, different place. We'll be on Twitch tomorrow. So enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jade. Nice to have you here. See you later, everyone.